New Jersey, October 29, 2012. Massive flooding and high winds from Hurricane Sandy damaged more than 100 drinking water facilities and sewage treatment plants with outdated infrastructure. Every county in the state of New Jersey is impacted. Some residents and businesses remain without water weeks after the storm. Estimated cost, $45 billion. Drinking water and wastewater utilities are affected by natural disasters. Would you be prepared to deal with the consequences that could threaten your mission to protect public health and the environment? As board members and utility managers, you are not powerless, but hold the key to your own success. You play an integral role in ensuring that your utility is prepared to respond and recover from any disaster you may face. Disasters come in all shapes and sizes, from natural disasters to accidental spills or criminal acts, including vandalism, terrorist attacks, and cyber attacks. We all know that some disasters cannot be avoided. However, your utility and community may fare worse if you do not invest in all hazards planning. All response begins with investment and preparation at your utility.
There was a break in a main line that resulted from a major storm event, and we had loss of water to a school. The school did not have a secondary supply. Obviously, that's a huge impact, as it will be with kids not being able to have water during their lunch periods, and fountains, the use of restrooms and things of that nature. If you don't have the ability to be able to supply water to that school, the parents are called in. They have lost revenue from being off work that particular day. There were certainly some impacts financially to not only the city, but certainly to the families that were impacted.
Economic impacts to your utility and community can be more destructive and long-lasting than physical damage. So it's important to be aware of all potential outcomes, such as costs to provide alternate drinking water sources or wastewater services to customers, potential regulatory consequences from permit violations, repairs to damaged infrastructure, revenue loss to the utility and the community from customers who can no longer use your service, litigation costs as a result of public health impacts due to contaminated water or sewage backups into homes and businesses, and environmental impacts and costs such as damage to local ecosystems due to accidental discharges or overflows and loss of recreational usages. Updating your emergency response plan to reflect process changes and investing in essential outdated equipment can help your utility sustain its mission to protect public health and the environment. Recurring training on your emergency response plan can help ensure that employees know how to respond when there is a malfunctioning utility asset.
Our previous treatment process was phys-chem, and because the equipment was all late 70s, the automation equipment was iffy at best. So when we were no longer making pH and we started seeing the chlorine residual rise, the reaction, which was entirely according to training, was to simply add more chlorine. We eventually ended up discharging effluent that had up to 35 parts per million of chlorine, which resulted in a significant fish kill. The DEC required us to immediately cease using that process at a cost to the community of $13 million.
Economic loss is only one result from being unprepared. The potential for serious public health and safety impacts of water loss, including injury and illness due to lack of drinking water or wastewater service, must be considered and prepared for. Water loss to critical customers, such as hospitals and nursing homes, can have serious consequences for the community and can affect safety measures such as firefighting. Unprepared drinking water and wastewater utilities have extended periods of recovery. Some customers may never return after a service interruption, and you may be forced to charge a higher rate or reduce profit margins to pay for the higher costs. Is that a price you can afford to pay? By applying the phases of emergency management, you can identify and reduce all hazard vulnerabilities using a vulnerability assessment. Respond to emergencies and recover efficiently from impacts to your utility. Within this framework, there are activities you can complete associated with the phases of prevention, mitigation, and preparedness. These steps should include emphasizing the need for a capital improvement plan to address aging infrastructure.
We are presently in the stage 1 of an SBR upgrade. Phase 2 will be next year and phase 3 will be the following year after, and what that is phase 3 is actually a green strategy. Through this upgrade, the chlorine gas will no longer be present at this location. We'll either disinfect with a liquid chlorine or we'll use UV. We're all hopeful of UV, and that does away with all the chemical storage. So conceivably the equipment needs and the safety needs for the full most part of running this plant will be just about in half of what it is now today.
In addition to a maintenance plan, you should also complete security projects to prevent criminal acts, including cyber attacks, and invest in infrastructure improvements, such as raising the height of intakes or outfalls. You should update your emergency response and continuity of operations plans by documenting roles and responsibilities of staff during emergencies. It's important to purchase essential equipment for emergency response. You should develop a memorandum of agreement and participate in mutual aid and assistance networks with other utilities in your state, such as through the Water Wastewater Agency Response Network, or WARN.
Here in 2009, Arkansas was hit by a major ice storm as well as other states surrounding us. We asked utilities in the south to bring their generators to help systems in the north that were in need of generators. We also called on Louisiana Rural Water, Mississippi Rural Waters to come up here and help our utilities until they got the power back online. And it's utilities helping utilities was what makes it work. And through our R1 program, that's what we strive to do.
In addition to working with other utilities, you should identify, develop, and maintain relationships with other response partners to manage expectations and understand how they can help you and how their response plans might impact your utility. Ensure that you are included in the community's emergency response plans so that you are prioritized at the local emergency operations center. It's also important to get in the habit of completing certain activities in advance of an emergency, like filling water towers and cleaning storm drains. Completing activities like these associated with prevention, mitigation, and preparedness can help to improve day-to-day operations, improve use of internal resources, and increase worker safety.
Planning for an emergency is a lot cheaper than having to play catch up after emergency hits and you lose critical pieces of equipment. If you plan ahead and prep for an emergency, you're in control, as opposed to the other way around, where you're going to have to spend more money, more time, more resources, and a lot of headache in order to play catch up when you could have been prepared before by spending a little money ahead of time.
Ultimately, you can greatly increase your chances of mitigating major economic, public health, and environmental impacts and help increase consumer confidence and maintain the trust you have earned over the years. Don't get soaked. Invest in making your utility disaster resilient and start working together to develop a plan outlining the activities that your utility can implement before the next emergency occurs. For more information and tips, go to www.epa.gov/water security.